Now let's discuss this fun spot of J66. Okay? Very, very cool scenario where, remember, we have a huge range advantage as the under-the-gun +1 player, but we completely lack the nut advantage. Remember? So here we have under-the-gun +1 raising, big blind calls, big blind checks, we check behind. And now they are going to bet the turn using a small bet size in this example. When they're using the small bet size here, we should do a whole lot of calling, right? However, when they do use the small bet size, we should at least consider raising our best hands that really want to build the pot. Now, we don't have a ton of quote-unquote best hands here, so if I had to remake this chart right now, I would probably just not have a raising range. But I can tell you the solver is going to have some nut hands here due to using better mixed frequencies on the flop, right? So the solver is going to raise here some portion of the time. If we are going to raise here, our draws are 10-9, Queen-9, Queen-10. That's about it. We have no draws. Almost no draws, right? But that's okay because we have almost no made hands either. When we're facing this small turn bet, we do have to call a lot. That's basically going to be any good ace high and better. But fortunately, when it does go check-check on the flop, notice our range is pretty decent to begin with, right? So we don't really have much of a problem calling a small turn bet in this scenario. Whenever you do see a range image that looks like this, by the way, where we would like to raise some hands, but we're lacking bluffs, you should really just like try to find some sporadic bluffs with like maybe ace-2 of diamonds. I know it doesn't seem like a great bluffing hand, but that's typically what you want to do is like find some weird sporadic hands that would have to fold. Maybe like ace-10 offsuit raises every once in a while. But that's, like I said, if I was remaking this image, I don't think I would even raise aces and jacks. But I'm sure the solver is going to raise some. And as you see, solver actually does raise some, right? Because it has aces and kings and queens and jacks. Doesn't really have any sixes, which is interesting. But solver does raise those hands. Did I have pocket eights? I have pocket eights listed as a call. Can raise eights too. It's probably an oversight by me, right? But I can tell you what happened here, actually. It's coming back to me. We don't have any draws. When you have no draws, what are you going to do? All right, what is the solver raising as a bluff? Solver raises weird ace-king as a bluff. Interesting. Solver raises weird king-queen as a bluff. Weird, like queen-10 as a bluff. I mean, we pegged these ones, right? As I said, ace-5, ace-4, ace-3 every once in a while is raising as a bluff. So kind of a convoluted strategy. I would probably recommend just doing a lot of calling here. But you see, solver's folding only 17%, and I was folding, a little bit more than that, but not a whole lot more than that. What's solver do with ace-10? It does fold ace-10. Okay. So really, we're basically matching this, cell by cell to some extent. So that's good. What about on Jack-6-6 ace? Now we have the prober betting big, 120% pot. Remember, when they bet 100%, 20% pot, we do not get to raise because they are super duper polarized. So even though we have a whole lot of aces here, and this turn is really good for our range, we do not get to raise because even our good hands like ace-king still lose to a 6. And also we really want to keep our opponent in with their bluffs here because their bluffs are going to be just backdoor flush draws and some total air, which is in very, very bad shape against our aces. So in this scenario, the plan here is to call very frequently on the turn, but then fold out a lot of the time on the river. Probably more like bad aces we would end up folding out, assuming the opponent's using a big bet size. But when the opponent's polarized, you do not raise. Notice here, even some aces opt to fold the turn immediately against this big bet, which seems pretty tight to me. But we've seen this pattern happen over and over again in these examples where when the opponent is very polarized, we're folding out even some of our pretty strong made hands. Like we saw bottom pairs folding out earlier, just like I forget the exact scenario, but we saw some hands that I would have probably stuck around with, calling, like usually pairs. Here we see also the aces even folding out sometimes, like ace-10, right? Ace-10 folds sometimes. Obviously, like 10s and lower folds out the majority of the time. King-queen folds out sometimes. But all the rest of this seems pretty reasonable, right? That said, understand when your opponent is blasting it, in a scenario where you have the range advantage, but lack the nut advantage, you do have to proceed very cautiously. And this shows you the power of using these big bet sizes, right? If the opponent bets small, well, then you can just easily stick around with everything or the vast majority of everything and life will be easy. But when they use big bet sizes, it puts you in a tough spot.